For our fish flop, we need to be super comfortable in a backwards roll to tummy first. So what I'm looking for is that you are going back with lots of control. You're not using too much momentum, and that you're using your arm to support yourself and actively pushing with both arms as you're coming out of it. I'm also looking for half fish flop. So this is where we go, one leg stays up in the air. Same concept. And finally, a shoulder stand. Now with the shoulder stand, there's different entries we can use, so it doesn't matter too much which entry you use, but you should be able to comfortably hold this kind of a position, and ideally even be working on starting to hold an arched back at the top. These things are going to be really, really helpful. Now, when I teach this in studio, or used to teach this in studio, I used to have huge aerial hoop mats. So people could really make a lot of mistakes and they weren't going to hurt themselves because they had these really lovely huge mats. So even in the studio I'm renting now, I only have these little pole mats. So I would teach it very differently if I had a huge mat versus not. Now the first thing you really need to do, especially when you're learning this by yourself at home, have plenty of room. This one takes up a significant amount of space. And put all of the clothing, all of the layering on, soft surfaces. You could put blankets, pillows, whatever you can down. Because whilst we're first learning this, there is a high chance of smashing hip bones, pubic bones, and knees into the floor. And I know this because when I first learned it, I did that a lot. So knee pads, trousers, I've got a jumper on even though I'm very warm today to protect my shoulders. If it's painful, you're not going to get very far. So cushion yourself as much as you can. Okay, before we go into the little details of this, we're just going to do a slight extra back warm-up. However, you should have already done a good warm-up. There are warm-ups on the platform. Make sure you're already fairly warm. We're just going to do a few things that are specific to our back that will help us today. So we're going to start off looking over each shoulder. I think it's important to note with this one, you don't actually have to be as bendy as you think. It's really more about skill and control. Up and down. I've known students who have no back bend whatsoever be able to do this one. It helps, but it really doesn't make much difference. It's that control, it's that strength, it's the skill, it's the technique. Little semicircles. Hairs everywhere today, I'm like cousin it. Okay, we're going to come to kneeling and we're going to do some cat-cow, so arching, head as well, get everything involved. Rounding, really active here. I want you to squeeze into each position. Now, if you did, say, a back bend class, I've got quite a few of those on the platform. Before joining in with this one, it could be helpful, but it also might not be because you might be already sore. But those are good things to work on. Certainly the bendier your back is, the nicer and nicely it looks, the fish flops looks, and also it is slightly easier if you've got that flexibility behind you. Now circling, disco cat, or disco cow, I don't know. And the other direction. And then we're going to come up. We're going to grab our ankles if we can. If you can't, you can have hands on hips. Make sure you're really controlled. Into camel, head back, push the hips forward, squeeze your bum. You may not be able to go very far, that's okay. You may look more like this, or like this even. Okay, that's all right. And we don't want to be super intense here. We want to feel it, but we don't want to be in agony. And then let's come to tummy and just do a little cobra. There's different ways of doing cobra, whatever works for you today, as long as you're not feeling any pinching in your lower back. If you are, squeeze your bum or ease off. Now I'm just going to try and bend and squeeze our feet to our head a few times. Okay, so let's talk about what we're going to do step by step. It is quite a challenging one. Now, like I said, if you had a huge crash mat that was really thick, big aerial crash mat, you can kind of just go for it and use a lot more momentum and figure out as you're going, because there's not a huge amount that can go wrong. However, if we are on the floor, even if we've got all of the soft things behind us all over the ground, there is still the chance of quite seriously hurting ourselves. And I mean, like most things, it's probably just going to be some bruising. But like I said, it will put you off from wanting to progress. Please do listen to your body if something feels wrong, if something feels injury-like, pain-like, muscular, joint, okay, nerve. Like I say right in the disclaimer at the beginning of the video, stop, seek some more advice before continuing. Okay, so I'm going to have to show you from a few different sides so you can see all the things. But essentially, if you know how to do a shoulder roll to tummy, so we roll, let me go slight diagonal so you can see both arms hopefully a bit more clearly. So whichever shoulder we're going over, we look that way, the opposite hand comes by the face, okay, feet come down. This arm here is going to roll as we slide down to tummy. There are full tutorials for all of the prerequisites I showed you at the beginning on the platform, so make use of them, okay? So, the arms are essentially the same. It's what we do with our body at the top that is going to change. I'll show you from lots of different sides, lots of different angles. So, I'm going to do it really slow. Now, ideally, because you're doing this at home, and you haven't got a big crash mat and there's no one to kind of keep an eye on your technique and things like that, the slower and more controlled you can learn to do it, I think the safer you're going to be. Which is a shame because quite often the momentum does help people when they're first learning. And I know there's some instructors that have this idea that momentum is evil, it's really bad. Momentum isn't really bad as long as it is still a little bit controlled. We don't want to be completely chucking ourselves with no thought at all. But momentum isn't this evil thing. We use momentum all the time in pole and all kinds of other things. I'm just started going back to gymnastics. You couldn't do even a beginner's class without using some level of momentum. So it's not a bad thing per se. But because you're at home, the more control you can have, the safer you're going to be. So I'm going to do it really slow. But the slower you do it, the harder it is in terms of strength. That's why I've given the prerequisites that I have. So we start off sitting. We're going to push, or you can be laying down. We're going to push back, arms are staying straight, pushing into the ground, and I lift my hips off the floor. I look over the shoulder I want to go over, and the opposite hand is going to come across onto the floor by my face. Don't worry, I'll show you from a few angles so you can see the arms. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start to push my hips up like I'm going into that shoulder stand. I'm really reaching my feet to the ceiling, and I'm on the side of my face, but I want most of the weight to be in my shoulders and my arm. This arm that is on the floor needs to roll. You're then going to bend your legs, squeeze them to your bum, and it is super important as we roll down that we keep this shape. So I'm rolling chest, ribs, hips, then knees. You have to think of it like a tire. Okay, you want to keep that curved shape and you are rolling down each part of the body. What people want to do with this one, because they panic, is they want to throw their knees down or their hips down too soon. And that's when you're going to hit your hip bone into the floor, your kneecaps into the floor. It happens. That's why we need some pretty heavy-duty, sexy knee pads for this one. Let me go from this side now. So, pushing into the ground. Hips up nice and high as if I'm going to shoulder roll. I look over the shoulder, I'm going over. The opposite hand comes across so that I can start to push with it. I'm going to start to take my feet up to the ceiling, really, really high as I can. Push my chest forward, get my body nice and straight. This bottom hand rolls. I take my legs back, squeezing them to my bum as hard as I can, and I push my hips forward. And then I turn myself. By the way, this is quite impressive, I think. I'm going to roll down, chest, ribs, hips, knees. You do not let yourself start to fold until you have felt your knees touch the floor. So essentially, we are going from this to this. Oh, sorry, we're not going from this to this. Ignore me. We are going from this position to start with in that shoulder stand. We then open out to this shape, and we don't come back into a curl until the very end. Okay, so it's like fold, back bend, fold. So it's like forward fold, back fold, forward fold, just to be really confusing. Okay, let me show you one more time the breakdown, and then we will talk left and right just a little bit. I'm not sure if I can do this over my right shoulder, but I'll try my best. So, again, I'll do it from two different angles again, so you can see both arms more clearly. So I rock back up to my shoulders, I push through my hands, I look over the shoulder I'm going over. Whichever shoulder I'm going over, the opposite hand comes to my face through, so you should be able to see that hand. I'm going to reach everything up to the ceiling as high as I can and start to arch, and I roll my bottom hand, and you can move it to support you wherever feels best, but you want to push through both arms. Okay, you're then keeping this shape. So I'm really squeezing my bum. I'm really pushing my feet to my bum. I'm going to stick my chest out, and I'm going to really control with my arms that roll down. I have to be pushing really hard through both arms to slow the descent. If my arms go floppy as my body rolls down, okay, it isn't going to work very well. One more time from this angle, and you can probably see I'm having to turn myself because going in a straight line in a fish flop is quite hard. It's not impossible, it's really not. But especially when I'm trying to do it really slowly, you tend to go off like an L shape. Totally normal when you're first learning. You'll learn to straighten it out as you go. So push the hands into the floor, rock back. Look over the shoulder you want to go over. Bring the opposite hand across by your face so you can push with it. Take the feet up to the ceiling and the hips forwards. Roll the bottom hand so you can push. Both arms are supporting. Keep the shape. Keep the shape. Keep pushing through the arms. Control chest, ribs, hips, knees, and we finish by folding at the end. Okay, it's going to be hard to show you left and right, I think. Maybe I can come at you from a weird angle. Maybe you'll be able to see. So let's try from here. I'm going to go for left shoulder first because that's what I've been doing so far, and I'll show you right. So I rock back up and I look over the left shoulder. My right arm is the one that's going to come by my face. I push my feet to the ceiling, rolling onto the side of my face, and I roll my left hand with me. I really keep squeezing my hips forward, squeezing my bum. I keep my feet to my bum, and I roll chest, ribs, hips, knees. Okay, hopefully that's in shot of the camera. I wasn't going to have to refilm it. Let's try the right side. Oh my gosh, I remember the last time I tried my right side. It's going to be interesting. This is where you see what the learning process looks like, because I'm going to be crap. So, rock up to shoulder stand, look over the right shoulder. Bring the left hand by your face. Start to, oh my God, this is so much harder on this side. Push your legs up to the ceiling. Okay, you can see which arm is doing what, so hopefully that still makes sense. Let me try one more time. So, look over the right shoulder, left hand comes over, my hair's in the way now. Push the feet up to the ceiling. Come on, body, you can do this. Oh, there we go. Oh no, I need to roll that hand. Practice both sides, kids. Try and hold the shape, and then roll down. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you can hopefully see the left and right, which arm my leg is doing what, even if it's not super clear. But yeah, I can't actually do it, but that's fine. That is a good reminder to train both sides. When I first started pole, no one cared about that. No one gave a shit. So here I am, 12 years into my pole journey, and I am catching up on my bad side on most things. But to smarter. I've never tried it, so I'm going to have to practice that a bit more. Okay, as always, if you have any questions, I am here to help. Let me know. Quite often, if you send me videos of what you're doing, that best positions me to be able to give you specific advice. And don't forget, train smarter, not harder.